Now, before I start graphing, the standard form for linear function, the standard form is called y equals mx plus b. Has a name, by the way, that form. Anyone knows what that form called? Slope what? Intercept form. Yep. Why they call the slope intercept? Because m is your slope and b is what? Your y-intercept. That's why. So slope, what does the slope means? Slope here of a line, it means how steep that line is. The steepness of the line. Now, we all learned a long time ago in high school, we use m for a slope. The slope is what? The rise over the run? Which is the change in y over the change in x. By the way, change in y, change in x, that's too much to write for math people. So the way we write change in y, change in x, we go delta y over delta x. Delta means change. So when you see that little triangle delta, that means change. Just another way. We don't want to write change. So the slope is known as y2 minus y1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And again, how steep is the line? That's what slope is. Now, it might be 0, has no rise in it, or fall, flat line, the steepness is 0. Or it might be a vertical line where you're in trouble there. But if you graph a line, any line, and you pick 2 points on that line, any 2 points, so this is x1, this is x2, this is y1, and this is y2. So that little distance right there right here is x2 minus x1. That's your run. And that little distance right there y2 minus y1. That's your rise. The rise over the run. We're going to graph a lot of functions by knowing the slope. You're going to see that. That's why we're looking at the slope. If I know one point and the slope, I can graph any function. But first, let's practice you calculating the slope using that equation. Somebody pick a point. Give me an x and a y value. I don't care what the number. Go ahead. 3 and 6? 3 and 2. Somebody else, give me another point. 2 and 4? Okay. So here's the question. Find the slope of the line that passes through 3 and 2, and 2 and 4. Find the slope of the line that passes through 3 and 2 and 2 and 4. I get 2 points here. It really doesn't matter which one is point 1, which one is point 2. Since this is the first point, I called point 1, that's point 2. This is the x value of point 1, this is the y value of point 1. This is the x value of point 2, this is the y value of point 2. So my slope m here is going to be y sub 2 minus y sub 1, x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Do I know what y sub 2? That's 4 minus the 2. 4 minus 2. X sub 2, which is 2, minus the 3. What's 4 minus 2? 2. What's 2 minus 3? Negative 1. That's a negative 2. Or negative 2 over 1, if you want to write it that way. And what does that mean, negative 2 over 1? What that means, for every time you go to the right, this is the change, the run. It's positive. That means you're going to the right. Every time you go to the right by 1 unit, what happens to the y value? It goes down by how many units? 2 units. So when one increases, the other one decreases. They're not going the same direction. They're not both increasing because it's negative. Now, what about if we have a student who would say, you know what? We go right to left. So the point 3 comma 2, same question. 2 comma 4. But I'm going to call this point 1 and this is point 2. So this is point 1. If that's point 1, this is the x value of point 1. This is the y value of point 1. This is the x value of point 2. This is the y value of point 2. Is my answer going to be different? I hope not, but let's see. What is y sub 2? 2. Minus, what's y sub 1? 4. What's x sub 2? 3. Minus, what's x sub 1? 2. 2 minus 4, which is what? Negative 2 over 1, and that's still a minus 2. So it doesn't really matter which one you call point 1, which one's point 2. What does matter, if you call this one point 1, this is the x value of point 1, and that has to be the y value of point 1. You can't call it x1, y2. So once you label this as 1, this is also 1. This is 2, that's 2. They go together. Now, the slope, by the way, which I didn't mention that, you could have 4 possible outcomes when you're calculating the slope. You could have positive slope, you could have negative slope, you could have 0 slope, you could have undefined slope. There's 4 possible outcomes when you're finding the slope. Your number could be positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Let's look at each case and see what will happen. What's a positive slope means? As you go, yes, as you go from left to right, the function is rising, it's going up. Like this one, or that one, or this one. As you go to the right, notice the y value, it's rising. That's a positive slope. What's a negative slope? As you go left to right, the y value is dropping. All of these have negative slope. As you go to the right, you can see the y value is dropping. This is a plane taking off, it's rising. This is a plane landing, coming down. Zero slope, what does that mean? Horizontal, flat. So these have zero slope. So if you see, for example, y equals to 1, y equals 2, that's your equation. Uh-oh. I think the marker just died, this pen here, no? Oh, it's still full. Y equals negative 2. Y equals negative 5. If you have a problem like this, you have zero slope. The slope is the steepness, the pitch. There is no steepness here, it's flat. An undefined slope is what? Something going up and down. This is undefined slope. The reason, remember, the slope is the rise over the run. The run is 0, you're dividing by 0. That's why you can't have a slope here. So if you see like x equals negative 4, x equals negative 1, x equals 1, x equals 3, all of these have a slope that's undefined. Here's probably the most common mistake I get from a student. They'll be doing a problem like this. Now as for the slope, find the slope and the y-intercept. And maybe I'll graph them after. So what's my slope here? Everyone knows the slope is the number in front of x. They go, I got it, I got it. Y equals mx plus b. So they go, my slope is the number in front of x, 2. I go, try again. Why? Because I need to take that and solve it for y first. How do you solve that equation for y? I need to take that 2x, move it to that side. If I move it there, I will have what? 3y equals negative 2x plus what? 7. That's still not good enough. Not good enough. Why? I need to solve it for y. You have 3y there, not y. So to make it a y, what are we going to do? Divide each one by what? 3. So the equation y equals negative 2/3 x plus 7 over 3. So what is my slope? Negative 2/3, the number in front of x. What's my y-intercept? 7 over 3. Now again, if I want to graph that, there we go. Let's find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is what? 7 over 3. That's 2 1/3 roughly. So here, right there, that's the y-intercept, 2 1/3. Now notice my slope is what? Negative 2 over 3. That's the rise over what? The run. Let's go from this point. Let's change x by how many units? 3. So do we go right or left? 3. We go right 3 units. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to change the y value from there by what? 2 units down. And when you have the 2 points, you connect them, and that's your graph. Bless you. Notice if you did this dotted line, you went to the right by 3 units, you went down by 2 units. Went down. So I can put a minus which says you went down instead of going up there. You went down by 2 units, and you went to the right by 3 units. A lot of times when they ask you to write the y-intercept, if they say write the y-intercept as an order pair, what does that mean? They want it as x and y value. So the x value for the y-intercept is always 0, and the y value is 7 over 3. So you got to write it as a point, x and y value. So let's graph a few of these functions. So we know the slope. Let's practice how to graph them. I'll show you different ways to graph, and you choose what works for you. I'll do 3 different problems. Say I want to graph this. The first option I'm going to show you is graphing by picking points. So here we go. All you need is really 2 points, but I'll do a 3 to be on the safe side because these are linear. You pick a value for x and you find the y value. You can choose any value for x. So what do you want to use? 0, okay. What else? Let's pick another value. 2. Let's pick a third one. -1, okay. You can choose any value you want to. Your answer is not going to change. I call this method the no mind. I love this method. I don't have to think that much about it. Plug them in. If I can't multiply and divide, I'm in trouble. What's 4 times 0? 0 minus 2? negative 2. That's your first point, 0 and negative 2. That's that point, 0 and minus 2. The second point, when x is 2, what's 4 times 2? 8. 8 minus 2? 6. 2 and 6. It's up there. 2 and 6, that big fat dot up there. When it's minus 1, 4 times the minus 1, negative 4, minus 2. What's negative 4 minus 2? Negative 6. So negative 1 and negative 6. And if we did this correctly, if we find a line to go through these points, you'll see the graph will look like this. The line goes through all 3 points. That's one way of graphing, by picking points. So you can use this method anytime you have y equals. That's really the easiest way. You can also use the slope-intercept form to graph this if you don't like this method. I will redo this one with the slope-intercept. What is my y-intercept? Negative 2. If you want it as a point, 0 comma negative 2. And what is my slope? Four, I'll make it a fraction, 4 over 1. Why? Because the rise over the run. Let's see. The y-intercept is negative 2. That's right here. And the slope is 4, or 4 over 1. For every time you go to the right by 1 unit from this point, let's go to the right 1 unit. And now you need to climb, go up how many? 4. And that's the graph of 4x minus 2. Y equals 4x minus 2. So I can graph it by points. I can graph it by using the slope-intercept. Where I get in trouble with these methods let's take this example now. Four x minus 3y equals 12. I could I could actually graph that, solve for y and graph it. I could do that. When I see x and y on the same side, I tend to use a different method. I tend to use this method. I use the x-intercept and the y-intercept. I try to find both of these numbers, connect them, then I'm done. How do you find the x-intercept? You let y be 0. How do you find the y-intercept? You let x be 0. So if you're looking for y, you let x be 0. If you're looking for x, you let y be 0. So let's let y be 0. This piece is gone. 4x equals 12, x equals what? 3. Notice I can write that as a point. X is 3, y is what? 0. That's 1 point. And to find the y-intercept, you let what? X be 0. If you let x be 0, this is gone. Negative 3y equals what? 12. Y equals what? Negative 4. Notice x is 0, y is negative 4. And that's it. So anytime I have x and y on the same side, that's the method I tend to use. Again, there's nothing wrong of solving it for x or y. So let's get the points. 3 comma 0. 0 comma negative 4. And there is the equation or the graph of 4x minus 3y equals 12. So I use here the intercepts. Graphing using the intercept. I found the x-intercept and the y-intercept.